Alright, so I got my motor here, and it's real close to being cleaned up, close enough to get it ready for paint and hone the cylinders out and ready for reassembly or whatever. But some folks had asked, well, some folks had mentioned that, it'd be a shame not to go through it when you already had it out and in the shop. And that's true, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to do it. I mean, it's the same amount of labor to put it back together like it was or to put new stuff in it. And I'm a warrior, so I wouldn't have felt right not knowing the mileage or anything about the motor, never hearing it run or anything like that. I mean, it's one thing if it ran to where it was crashed at or whatever, and then it was pulled out and mileage was verifiable on it. I mean, pretty much if a car's crashed, it ran till it wrecked. The situation with the van was, didn't know what the deal was. I talked to Jonathan. Jonathan said that he thinks that the guy had cooling issues with it, and that might have been what the case was. So, in the process of evaluating the rest of the deal, I'm gonna check the heads to make sure, check them real close to make sure there's no cracks or anything. But it could have been a cooling system problem or air in the cooling systems. These things, the thermostat's low on the motor, so it makes it hard to get all the air out of it. That's the reason for the steam tubes in the heads, or the steam ports, whatever you want to call them, with the crossover line that goes back into the radiator. That's the purpose of that, is to try to bleed some of that air out of the system. In my opinion, the plugs were actually too clean and burning too good to have had a blown head gasket. I mean, there was no water in the cylinders. There was no cylinder that was obviously misfiring because all the plugs were beautifully clean and everything. So I really don't think that was an issue. So if he had a cooling problem, it was because of the radiator or maybe air in the cooling system. But like I said, we'll verify this by checking the heads real carefully before, well, as we're doing the work on them, because we're going to port the heads and clean them up, change the valve stem seals, and put new springs on them because I'm going with a performance grind cam. So that being said, that part of it will not be an issue at all, and we will basically have a brand new motor here. Actually better than a brand new motor because it will be a seasoned block, and then all the machine surfaces and rings and bearings and all that'll be new. Well, not the machine surface, but it'll be a fresh home job on the cylinders and polish the crank and all that. So I mean, all that stuff will be like new. So none of that'll be an issue, and I won't have to worry about it. And I know for a fact that the motor will be good for 300,000+ miles after that. So that's what that deal is. Now, several people had asked, well, what are you going to put this motor in? And it's funny that you ask that, because it just so happens to be that I picked up something cool to put this in. So some of y'all don't get excited because I know I've got way too many projects, but I got another one. In my vast collection of Chevrolet trucks, I have every body style from the 30s all the way up into the 90s, with the exception of the OBS body style, which I have some parts for them, but I don't actually have a truck from that body style. But the only body style that I didn't have a truck from is the Task Force body style, which is the 55 to 59 body style. And so you guys that watch Jonathan's channel know that Jonathan had picked up a 55 short bed a while back, and I got that from him. So I now have a Task Force design truck, and actually in my collection, I have there was two body styles. 55 was a half year. The first half being like exactly like the 54, and very similar to the 47 to 53 body style. And I just happened to have a first series 5-window cab 55 truck in my collection. And now I have a 55 second half standard cab truck, meaning it's the small back glass. Now, the big black glass is a more desirable cab, but they're harder to find. Jonathan just happens to have one that's got a Perkins diesel in it that he fixed up. But I now own a 55 second half small back glass cab. So, and it's going to have this 6-liter, and it's going to be pumped up a little bit. Probably be around 400 horses at the current, with a 4L80 in it. And it's going to be ratty on the outside. The inside of the cab's going to be painted nice, and but it'll all look basically stock looking in and out of it, with the exception, like I said, the inside will be nicely painted and the gauges won't be stock. But the rest of the truck will look stock with the exception of the stance. It's going to have a lowered stance. And I've got some ideas in mind. And it will be an independent front suspension where, it was factory, it was a straight axle truck. So it will be independent suspension in the front. And I'm toying with the idea of airbags. I do have an airbag set up. So if y'all stay tuned and follow along, that truck will come together. I've already got a lot of it, and I don't have any of the internal parts for this motor yet, like the rings and bearings and all that, but that's just a matter of ordering them. And I think I've got the majority of the chassis parts, and I'm not going to tell you about how the chassis is going to be done yet, but like I said, y'all stay tuned and you will see what the chassis is going to be. And Jonathan's truck didn't have a bed on it, but I do have a bed. You guys that are knowledgeable about these trucks know that they ran the same bed from 55 to 66 on the step-side trucks. So I have a bed, and it actually goes on a different truck, but I'd rather use it on this truck, and we'll like I said, we'll get it together. This is the bed right here. And I have 2 sets of fenders to choose from, a set of stock fenders and a set of aftermarket fenders that were truckline freight damaged. So they're not rusty, they're bent up a little bit. So we'll use the best 2 fenders we got in this bed, and it actually has a jam-up tailgate on it. So that will be the 55. So be looking out. That's what we got coming. And of course, what all else we already had going on. I'm actually going to do this chassis right here is due for a paint and reassembly. I'm going to have some videos on it in the near future. And like I said, we got the 67 truck here. We've got the Grand Prix right here. This 6-liter and everything to go with the cab over truck. That's the transmission for the cab over. And the cab for the cab over. And then the cab for the 37 rat rod, which is going to get a Ford style 4-inch drop I-beam drilled, which is up under there. So yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff coming on. Yeah, it's going to come together. Like I said, we're in the midst of gathering parts for all this stuff. And I know y'all guys might think I'm stretched out a little too far. There's the chassis for the the cab over right there and the rear end. But we're gonna get it together. So y'all just hang tight and you'll see some cool stuff going on. And now I'm gonna post a short video, a clip of the 55. All right, guys, later.